Howdy folks, and welcome back to No Guarantees. Today we're going to be installing air conditioning on my LS swapped 94 YJ. Now I know what some of y'all are thinking. Why would anybody waste the money installing air conditioning in a glorified easy bake oven on wheels that gets so hot in the floor pan you could practically cook a hot dog and you could just take the top off like God intended? First things first, I'm going to disconnect the battery. I know this is the riveting content that you guys came here for. Next things next, we can pull out the ashtray. This thing rattles worse than a shopping cart on a gravel road, so I'm gonna replace it while it's out. I don't think anybody wants to see me doing this for 10 minutes. In order to get it out, there are 3 5/16 screws. 1, 2, 3. You can either pull your drawer all the way out or really all the way out. It's whatever you think is easier. As far as tool selection, I don't have a long enough 5/16 socket to get through it through the bottom that way. So I've got the end of one of those screwdrivers that's 1/4 inch and 5/16, and then a 1/4 inch Allen key to turn the whole thing. A little bit janky, but definitely works. Here's the evaporator out of the box. It's a good time for me to mention that I bought the entire kit from JeepAir outside of the compressor and the bracket for it. Those 2 pieces I bought from Summit because this is an LS and not a 40, 25, 42, that kind of thing. So taking a look at it, the first thing we need to do is make sure the blower motor spins without knocking on anything. If it sounds like a blender now, it still will once you get it in the car. And no, it won't self-clearance. So it feels like it's spinning freely. I'm not feeling or hearing it drag on anything, so I'm gonna call it good. And to bolt the ashtray up to the evaporator box, it's a different 3 screws. Instead of being 1, 2, 3, you need to reach in here and pull the drawer out. There's this tab right here. If you push it down, drawer comes out just like that. And then to install it, it's 1, 2, 3. They use the same 5/16 self-tappers. And then coming over to the evaporator, hopefully you guys can see, hole here, hole here, hole here. So I don't know what it was originally for, but this little threaded guy right here is definitely hanging me up. There's absolutely no provision for it in the top of this evaporator box, so I'm just going to cut it off. I'm really not sure what it could be for, but it doesn't just push out of there like I hoped for. And there we go, much better. It's quick, but it's not listed in the instructions anywhere, so I figured you guys should know about it. I can tell that I can get my transmission shifter all the way into park, but I can't get my 4-wheel drive shifter past neutral because it runs into the bottom of the box. However, pulling off the knob, there is just enough room for me to get it all the way into 4 high. So I'll be in the market for a low profile shift knob. Next up, we need to pull the gas pedal out and trim the top off of it. Hopefully you guys can see back there that it's running into the back of the box. In the instructions they provide, they tell you to do this after you mount the condenser in the box, which makes absolutely no sense. It's much easier to get to the pedal before you do all that. This is where we need to cut the top of the gas pedal to. It's pretty much just as close as you can to the top hole without breaking through. And if you do happen to break through, it's no big deal. And there we go. I'll go see if that fits. It does fit, but first we need to support the evaporator box just a little bit more. You can do it, buddy. I believe in you. And I know it's hard to see underneath the dash, but there are these 4 dimples in the firewall. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right next to where the gas pedal cable comes through. You want to mount that support bracket off of these 2 closer dimples. Coming around to the passenger side, I also drilled 2 1.25-inch holes for the grommets. The measurements they give you in the instructions and the picture they show of where to draw them don't really line up, so I kind of matched the picture. The center of this hole is 1 inch off of this seam right here, and then the center of this hole is 2 inches off of that. I just centered the 2 holes evenly, top to bottom, between the floor and the bottom of the heater housing. And then over here, I've just got a 5/8 hole. This is for the drain line coming from the evaporator unit. The instructions don't really tell you where to draw it. They just say in the floor to the left of this hole, which I'm assuming means somewhere around here, but then the tube they provided would be nowhere near long enough. I figured putting it here was kind of a happy medium where the tube is long enough and it still should be plenty out of the way. I might have to trim my carpet a little bit, but it's nothing I'm worried about. Coming around to the engine bay, you can see I flipped my air intake over to the driver's side. That's to make room for our compressor. I also had to rerun the wiring for the MAF sensor all the way out to its new location. Not too big a deal because I was smart enough to leave plenty of length on that wiring so I wouldn't have to splice into it, but I was too dumb to loom it separately from everything else. So I'll have to pick up some loom and some tape and get that going. I also pulled my transmission cooler off the radiator. This is definitely not its final location, but the condenser is going to sit right here between the grill and the radiator, and I can't have my trans cooler getting in the way of that. Next up, I'm going to mount the dryer. It's just 3 self-tapping screws onto this flat area right down there. The important thing here is the orientation. You want where it says in to be towards the front, and you want the switch towards yourself when you're on the passenger side. Next up, we can work on getting the condenser installed. You're supposed to have to remove the radiator and fan shroud and all that, but I'm really hoping, and it looks like there will be, enough room for me to just unbolt the radiator and slide everything backward. That should make a lot less headache for myself, especially because I wouldn't have to drain the coolant. But thankfully it looks like I should be able to get more than enough room to get that condenser in here. These little guys are called U-nuts, and we're supposed to get 4 of them in the package. That way, for each of the 4 corners of the condenser, we can bolt it down to the grill and not have to tap, nutsert, or whatever, any other holes. However, they only sent me 2 of them, so I'm just going to have to use a nut and bolt and make it a little bit more of a pain to install. JeepAir only gives you 4 days after purchase to make any claims like this, and obviously I didn't look through all the hardware. I ended up having to pull the fan off, but I've got the radiator held out of the way with a bungee cord. I've once again been bested by JeepAir. This is a 5/16 bolt and easily goes through on this side, but over here, not so much. So for whatever reason, this half is set up for 5/16 and this half is set up for 1/4 inch. If you read their instructions, it says to use 4 5/16 bolts. So I'm not sure what's going on. It's about 9 o'clock and it's currently the lawn mowing Olympics out here. So I'm gonna wrap it up for the night. I'll see you guys in the morning. I should have the condenser on by then. I finished getting the condenser in last night. You'll notice that my radiator fan is still off and my transmission cooler is still zip tied to the grill. I'm waiting for some of those radiator push things to come through and then I can attach all that stuff. As far as the fitment of the condenser, I had the missing hardware and bolt hole size issues that I showed you guys last night. And I also had to beat in the bottom of the grill over in that corner just to make room for the fittings. I'm gonna blame that on the fact that my grill is beat up and not on the condenser, but it could be either one. You can see right in there, I had to curl the bottom edge of that grill up. I probably could have cut it off, but there's not really any room to get a cutting tool in there. I just had to do that again to make enough room on that fitting right there. I got the compressor and compressor bracket on. I didn't bother showing it because the ICT billet instructions are pretty good. I really thought this kit was going to be high and tight, kind of like the alternator, putting it somewhere around here, but it's really low and wide, which these engine bays aren't the widest, so I did run into some clearance issues. I had to beat out the fender here and here to make room for the compressor and the bracket, and then I also moved my dryer from in front of the compressor over here to back behind it over here. And if it helps anybody else, the belt I'm running is 113 inches, and that's with the stock alternator and power steering bracket on the other side. Next up, I'm going to try my hand at making some AC lines with the Vavor crimping tool. If you guys haven't noticed, unlike a lot of my videos, this one is really not intended to be a tutorial. I'll only tell you guys how to do something if I've done it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times before, but obviously this is my first time doing it, so you guys are just coming along for the ride. You guys can see I've made all my lines. My crimps are okay. I'm gonna blame most of it on user error, but I think they should still hold. As you can see, I'm working on pulling my vacuum now. I've already pulled the vacuum for a couple minutes. I'm gonna open everything back up and turn the pump back on and pump it for another couple minutes. And then I'm gonna lock it down for about an hour, make sure I don't have any leaks, and then really pull it down for probably about 45 minutes. It's been an hour, it completely held vacuum. Granted, that doesn't mean 100% I'm not gonna have any leaks. Sometimes these seals can do funky stuff under vacuum versus under pressure, but it's at least a good indication. I've got the vacuum pump back on. I'm gonna pull vacuum again for another half hour, 45 minutes, make sure all the system is evacuated and completely dried out, and then we'll be ready to charge it up. We are fully charged up, 2 cans of R134A. I've still got the gauges on just so I can keep an eye on everything. Compressor is kicked on. It's about 85 degrees today. If I come over here and grab my temp gun, we are at 38 degrees and dropping. All in all, that was a pretty quick install. It's amazing what happens when you buy all new parts instead of piecing them together from 15 different junkyard vehicles. I still need to mess with my wiring a little bit. It helps air conditioning systems out a lot when you have proper airflow over your condenser. So I need to wire my fan to kick on either when I'm requesting air conditioning or when the engine comes up to temperature. Shouldn't be too much of a headache, but it is something I need to take care of. Without that airflow over the condenser, the compressor hits the high pressure cutoff, and with that it cycles on and off and you don't get as cold of air coming out of those vents. I don't think it's fair for me to determine whether or not this kit is completely worth it. I've only had it for 3 or 4 days and the highest temperature we've had is the mid-90s. I'm gonna wait until we really get into the dog days of August when we see temperatures in the hundreds again, and then I'll give you guys a real review. Part of me does worry that it's gonna be similar to my 94 Sahara that had air conditioning, where it's really only gonna cool down your right knee and the inside of your thighs. But hopefully this will be a little bit better. It should blow much colder air and the cabin is much better insulated. If you're one of the guys that makes it to the end of every video, sincerely, thank you. It really means a lot to me. It helps me out a lot. Every view, every like, every comment, every share, every subscriber, it helps a ton. I just hit 1,000 subscribers the other day and I can't even fathom what 1,000 people looks like, let alone 1,000 people actually following along with what I'm doing. I mean, I'm just some kid in the driveway who likes working on his Jeeps. I wanted to give a special thanks to some of the guys that have been around since the beginning. Deluxe Dart, Mr. Bungle Disco, Ian Parks, Trey Volkman, and of course Tommy, but you don't really count. So again, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time on No Guarantees. Here's the condenser. Nope, that's not what this is. You're supposed to be